This is a disclaimer. This episode may contain graphic descriptions of crime and criminal activity. It therefore may not be suitable for listeners under the age of 18 or for those who may find the descriptions as disturbing. Listeners' discretion is advised. Hello and welcome to another episode of Krime KE podcast. My good name is Tila Juma, and I'm very grateful that you took the time to listen in today. Now, this is a femicide episode, as it has been for this season of Krime KE podcast. And as you can see from the title of the episode, today we will get into the murder of Damaris Muthee Mutua. Now, I remember this death rattled the athletics community because Damaris was the second athlete to be murdered in Iten in a period of 6 months. She was murdered in April of 2022, just a few months after Agnes Tiro, whose story I have already covered in this season of the podcast. If you haven't listened to it, please go back and listen. And now, without further ado, let us get into today's episode. And also, please stick around until the end of this episode to find out how you can support this podcast. Damaris Muthee Mutua grew up in Machakos County and she loved running and athletics. So she was very lucky to have a community that supported her dreams to be an athlete. She ran for Kenya as a junior athlete and represented Kenya in a lot of races before she switched her allegiance and started competing for Bahrain. Now in 2010, she won bronze for Kenya for the 1,000 meters race at the inaugural Youth Olympic Games in Singapore. But 2018 was her breakout year. She lit up the road racing scene with a stunning win in Marrakesh, clocking 1 hour, 8 minutes and 28 seconds over 20 kilometers. That was the fastest time that was recorded that year. Just weeks later, she proved that this was not a mistake. She finished second in Mozambique with a personal best in the half marathon of 1 hour, 11 minutes and 51 seconds. Fast forward to 2022, she was still going strong. In February, she took silver at the Arab Cross-Country Championships in Bahrain. Then in April, she landed third place at the Luanda Half Marathon in Angola, showing the world that she was far from done. Now, unfortunately, and unknown to her, this would be her last race. According to her family, she got back home from Angola and she was in high spirits. She was 28, a mother to a 6-year-old boy, and her career was finally moving forward. Her family said that she had big dreams, and one of them was to build a home for herself and her son. She had already taken the first step by buying a piece of land where she hoped to start building soon. Damaris left her Machakos home on Friday, 15th of April, and she headed to her training camp in Kapsabet. She was training for the upcoming World Championships and the Diamond League. So she left home on Friday, and on Saturday she was at practice with other athletes and her coach. Now, according to her coach, after training that Saturday, she had dinner with her teammates and everybody went to their rooms. This would be the last time that they would see Damaris alive. The athletes had been given Sunday off from training, so none of them were expected to show up for training the next day. So when Damaris did show up for breakfast that Sunday, the coach said that he assumed that she was resting, running errands, or even in church. Now, when she did not show up for lunch, they started getting concerned. Now, by that evening, when they hadn't seen her, they started getting worried. Her coach said that he tried to call her, but her phone was not going through. And they left it at that. They hoped that she might have just taken a day off and she would show up for training on Monday. Now, when she did not show up for training on Monday, they knew that something was wrong because it was out of character for Damaris to ditch practice, especially without communication. They tried to search for her in all the places that they knew she might have been, including other training camps, but she was nowhere to be seen. Her coach said that when they looked in her house, they only found her clothes and no Damaris. Now, Monday comes and goes without any communication or even any sign of Damaris. Now, on the other side of town in Elgeyo Marakwet County, in a small town called Iten, police were being alerted to an incident. At around 3 p.m. on Tuesday, 19th of April, Police were alerted that an Ethiopian athlete identified as Eskinder Haile Mariam Foley had called his friend and informed him that he had killed his girlfriend and her body was lying in his rental house in Lily's estate in Iten. Police say that it was this friend that alerted them. They immediately went to the house, but the place was locked. After breaking down the door to their apartment, they found Damaris' decomposing body lying on the bed, with a pillow covering her face. Now, police say that there were no physical injuries to her body, so they believe that she had died of strangulation. And it was on Tuesday afternoon that everyone at her training camp back in Kapsabet were learning that Damaris had been murdered. Now, according to reports from the media, on that Saturday evening, after she had dinner with her teammates, she received a call from the Ethiopian athlete. This call ended up in Damaris going all the way to Iten to see him, after which it is believed that he murdered her and fled to Ethiopia. While in Ethiopia, he used a different number to contact her family, and when he got in touch with them, he told them that Damaris had died by suicide, and he also told them where her body was. According to the police, Eskinder murdered Damaris either late that Saturday or early morning on Sunday before fleeing Kenya. Being that he was the last person to see her alive, he became the prime suspect in her murder, and the fact that he was not in Kenya complicated the case further because they had already traced his recent calls to Ethiopia. He became a fugitive and police began the process of extradition so that he could face murder charges in Kenya. At some point in the investigation, it was even reported that the police were working with Interpol to track him down and arrest him. Now, her autopsy corroborated police's assumption that she had died of strangulation, and her stomach content samples were taken for toxicology. But the thing is, that is as far as it goes for the investigation. Damaris was buried at her hometown in Machakos County in a ceremony where her friends and family remembered her very fondly. Her teammates described her as a disciplined athlete, and her father described her as polite and upright. Now, her father, by the way, was very angered by the reports that Damaris had a boyfriend. He said that as far as he knew, his daughter was married to her son's father, who he named as Felix Ngila. Now, Felix Ngila was based in Qatar because he worked there, but Damaris would travel to Qatar very often to meet him. Damaris' father said that it was wrong that the media was calling the suspect Damaris' boyfriend when she was clearly a married woman. Now, despite all of that, the other athletes say that they knew the suspect because he had been living and training with them in Iten for more than 5 years, and during that 5 years, he had allegedly had an affair with Damaris. The athletes say that despite the fact that they saw Eskinder a lot in the training camp, he always kept to himself and did not interact so much with them. Damaris' mother brought up the conversation of GBV, gender-based violence, and how Kenyan female athletes were falling victims. On April 22nd of 2022, athletes and fans and coaches took to the streets of Machakos to demonstrate and demand justice for her murder. Now we have come to the end of this episode. That is all I have for you on the story of the murder of Damaris Muthee Mutua. Well, I have not been able to ascertain if her family got to have their day in court or if there was any form of justice in her case, because all the reporting I found on this case ended right there at the investigation. I would actually like to get in touch with her family and talk about it. If you're listening to this and you can connect me with her family, then please do so using the contact information in the show notes of this episode. You can support Krime KE podcast by sharing this episode with your friends so that we can get a larger community to listen to these cases. I have tagged the podcast's contact information and social media pages on the show notes of this episode so that it is easier for you to reach out if you have any feedback on this episode or even the podcast in general. I love hearing from you, so please reach out. You can also use the same information to suggest crime cases that you would want to listen on the podcast, and I will get to them. With all that said and done, do not forget to give the podcast a 5-star rating on Spotify and catch the next episode of Krime KE podcast on Thursday next week. But until then, stay safe and remember, it is crime with a K.